Do it.
Doing it. All right, good evening, everybody. Thank you for coming a little bit earlier for our special public work session. So this meeting is for reviewing the June 30, 2025 balance sheet, taking place here before our normal board meeting at 7. All of our board members are here except for Dr. Moyer and Mr. Sigmund, both of whom are excused for this evening. Please, oh, wait, I don't have to do the pledge. Okay, great. I will save that for 7 o'clock. Excellent. There is no public comments, so we are moving on to item 5, the balance sheet. Belinda, thank you for preparing this for us.
Good evening. So before you this evening, we're going to have a presentation of the balance sheet. So first I wanted to start off and just quickly explain for some new members as well as for the public. Our school district finances is obviously very different from industry and corporate standards, and so I'm going to briefly, if you don't mind, review a couple of things, just kind of like set the stage before is to indicate what the balance sheet really represents. So the next slide, if you'll kindly move forward. So the purpose of finance, the two main objectives versus school district finance and industry corporate finance. School district, we have the accountability for public funds, and we have many compliance of rules, regulations, and school code. Industry is all based on profitability and value creation for owners and shareholders. The stakeholders themselves, for school district finance, it's taxpayers, governmental agencies that we work with, Pennsylvania Department of Education, school boards, and auditors. Industry is your investors, your shareholders, creditors, and management. Focus for, in the purpose of the finance, on school districts, it's budget adherence and it's stewardship, in making sure that we're using our funds in compliance with what our budget is and developed. Industry is based on profit growth and financial performance. School districts are here to operate on deliver educational services while companies operate to gain profits. In terms of accounting structure, school districts follow Governmental Accounting Standards Board, and we use fund accounting to track restricted and unrestricted funds. The chart of accounts for the PA local agencies is 160 pages. GASD is summarized in 49 pages, but we have an accounting system that is more detailed structured for different reporting requirements by PDE, whereas we have over 16,348 accounts that we monitor. Industries and companies, they follow generally accepted accounting principles issued by Financial Accounting Standards Board. And they use a single entry accounting profitability on systems. So of course, the levels of accounts are not quite the same as what the school district finance world is. Next slide. Our accounting structure in itself, for school districts, you can see that money is in funds, such as our general fund for daily operations, our capital projects fund, our debt service funds, special revenue funds, which is grants, as well as fiduciary accounts. Each fund has its own revenues, expenditures, and balances, and the purpose is to ensure legal restrictions on public money that is being followed to the letters of law. Industry and corporate accounting, far different in some aspects, which they use an integrated one accounting system. Clearly have revenues, expense, assets, liabilities, equity, and they focus on net income and financial position. Next slide. Sorry, next slide. I apologize. Please go back to the previous one. All right, sorry, I had 2 back-to-back pages on this. So financial statements produced, far different, school district versus industry. In a school district, we have a statement of net position, statement of assets, our governmental fund balance sheet, statement of revenues, expenditures, and changes in fund balance, and a budget to actual reports. And the emphasis is to know how public money is being spent and used. Industry, of course, is balance sheet, income statement, statement of cash flow, statement of shareholders' equity. And again, the emphasis is on profitability and financial performance. Next slide. So when we get to begin to talk about the balance sheet, what I'd like to start off with is say we need to start with a big picture. The school district's balance sheet is a snapshot of what the district owns, what it owes, and what resources remain available to support education at the specific point in time. Our balance sheet is page 18 of the unaudited financial report, ended June 30th, 2025. The entire report can be found at that link. We can make that link publicly available. For some reason, it's not being able to access it here on this presentation. But it is available on our website, and our full audited financial report is listed there. The balance sheet is one of the most three important fund statements. It's also related to a specific point in time, the last day of the fiscal year. The most important fund statements include, as I mentioned, the balance sheet, statement of revenues, expenditures, change in fund balance, statement of revenues, expenditures, and change in fund balance, as well as what's called a budget to actual analysis. A balance sheet shows our financial position, not its yearly spend. In government accounting, this is often called as the Statement of Net Position, which follows the Governmental Accounting Standards Board. Next slide. So as we move on, we'll review these next few slides in terms of assets, general fund, capital projects, and bond, and then we'll move to liabilities, and then we'll move to equity, or fund balance, I should say. So the assets for the general fund. First and foremost, the cash and cash equivalents. The number that's listed there, specific point in time, again, $7.2 million. It's ACMB use and PSLAF, which is Pennsylvania School District Liquid Asset Fund. We also have a small portion of Pliget funds, which is Pennsylvania Local Government Investment Trust. All these are permitted investments, and they're less than 1 year. We're not permitted to take out investments past 1 year. The first $250,000 is normally FDIC, if in the event, for further providing information. And the rest, of course, of those funds are set up in CDs and flex CDs. We put them out in accordance with our cash flow projections in order to when funds are due. But again, this is the result at the end of the year as a cash balances as audited. Next in line is due to other funds. This is note 6, due to other funds. This is note 5 of the audited financial reports. These are funds due from the food service funds. We have internal funds going back and forth between food service, fiduciary, CAP projects, and general fund. And this is due from the food service fund. Due from other governments. This is note 6 of the financial report. This is the federal, state, and local funds from agencies. Our interest receivable. This is accrued interest for the general fund from PSLAF, which is the Pennsylvania School District Liquid Asset Fund. Taxes receivable. And note 4, which is real estate, earned income, and realty and other. Other receivables is all other. That's local education agencies that we invoice for services that we provided during the year, as well as any other invoicing that we took care of at the course of the year, which is measured at the end of the year, such as we send invoices out for the school board and so forth like that. We have prepaid expenses, inventories first. Inventories are all our general and facility supply inventory. That's a measurement. Prepaid expenses is our general fund prepaid expenses. These are expenses that are paid in advance, due and payable, and actually transacted then, of course, the following year. So we prepay those expenses, and then we take care of a transaction to make sure that they line up appropriately. Lease receivable. This is the Vita School charter lease. They are utilizing our Eisenhower building, and this is a short and long-term requirement as stated by GASD. So this is a relatively new in the statement of financial accounting. So this is information was provided, detail was provided to the auditors, and they provided the GASB requirements, so of course we have to measure that as an asset. Lincoln Benefit Trust reserves. Again, Lincoln Benefit Trust is where we hold our medical, dental, and life insurances. So this is an asset. This is a restricted fund balance. This is a balance that is held off our books, in the essence that this is the balance that is held at Lincoln Benefit Trust. This is to handle 3 months' worth of reserves in order to make sure that any reserves are needed in the event of increasing in expenditures. Back to note 4, which is the taxes receivable. They're usually collected within 60 days. That is more detailed is in note 4 of the financial statement. And just in simplified terms, assets really are and represent everything the district owns and can use to provide education. Not necessarily used, but it's an asset which is something that we own, and it will change in time. These numbers are not a persistent, stagnant number. These are numbers that are developed at year end, and they will change as beginning of July 1st. Next slide. Then we move on to the assets, the Capital Project Reserve Fund. Again, you'll see cash and cash equivalents and investments. They're held at PSLAF. Again, these are all outlined in Note 2 of the financial statement. Due to the other funds of $10,000, this is due from the Capital Reserve of Fund 32. And of course, the interest receivable is accrued interest with U.S. Treasury Flex CDs held with PSLAF. Next slide. Our assets of the Bond Project Fund. Again, cash and investments, all held at PSLAF to the $7.4 million. Again, refer to Note 2 of the financial reporting, of the audited report, for more detail. Next slide, please. So now we're moving on to our liabilities. So liabilities are financial obligations that the district owes, and these are separated into funds, again. So the general fund, our accounts payable at year ends, these are for services that we owe payments to vendors for product and supplies that we've ordered. Due to other governments, this is, for example, other school districts that we owe for possibly a student being housed at the district, holding a space for education because for one or the reason we may not have had room at the particular point in time, as well as the prison education is in this number. More information can be found on Note 6 of the financial report. Due to other funds, this is an interfund payable between funds, and that information can be found in Note 5 of the financial report. Accrued salaries, benefits with withholding. More information, the detailed breakdown is on Note 8, but this is $8.1 million. This is accrued salaries with retirement, Social Security, insurance, workman comp, payroll withholdings, all designated from the payroll accrual, done at year end. This captures the teacher's contract paid through August because their contract year goes from August to, it begins in August and ends in July, as well as it includes the hourly classified based on time worked in June but paid in July. And then, of course, other liabilities are our one main account. Typically, the liabilities are our commitment that the district must pay in the very near future. Many times it's within the following July, August, September timeframe. Next slide. Our Capital Projects Reserve Fund, we have one accounts payable, an outstanding invoice for $158. Next slide. Our Capital Projects Bond Fund, we have outstanding construction invoices for $219,277. Now we move on to, next slide please, deferred inflows and resources. Unavailable tax revenue, this is Note 4, taxes collected after 60 days, outlined in the financial report of Note 4. I apologize, I said that twice. Then, of course, we have the unavailable future lease rental payments. This is the GASB 87 lease payments, lease term, and amortization on the lease over a number of years, liability and remaining term. So the auditors help us with this transaction simply because GASB 87 is not something that we do day to day, and it's typically a year-end transaction. Unavailable PPS initiative funds, $1,805. While I have the account number listed there, this really is pupil services initiatives. This is clearly related to the Helping Hands and the Warrior Wishes. So we have to document that as inflows and resources on the balance sheet. Next slide. Now we're moving into the section of fund balance. So general fund balance. So non-spendable, this is money set aside by the district. This is inventories and prepaid expenses. These are measured at June 30th. These are obviously they're an account balance similar to the exact same number of what our asset is, and so therefore they're non-spendable and they're used for a specific asset, not for use for other common purposes. On the fund balance, general fund, what I would like to say is, there's sometimes general fund balance, there's a misconception within the community, as well as some colleagues of mine. One of the main concerns is, well, if you've got, and apologize, let me move on to the next slide, please. This will be more of a help here to, the next, restricted. So before I mention this, so there's 4 areas of fund balance. There's non-spendable, there's restricted, there's committed, and then there's, of course, assigned and unassigned, 5 areas. So second area is restricted. This is a general fund of Lincoln Benefit Trust. This is the exact same as the asset. So while we record it as an asset, we also have to record it as a restriction. These are not available for general appropriations. These are specifically held in trust at LBT. Next slide. Now we move on to the commitment. The commitment, of course, is typically committed by the school board and not available for day-to-day appropriations. So capital improvements, $7.1 million. This was set up in future FIP, construction in progress. FIP for some of the members of the board is the blue section on the capital reserve plan, which will outline all those major initiatives that we have going on. Future FIP is, these were set into place since 7-8, and they were through 2022-23. Previous boards set these funds in place as a stopgap measure to be able to borrow more funds and to be able to set up funds for future bond payments, as well as to help fund those bonds. So what I'd like to say also with this area, while this is set up and set aside, this takes board action to move and to address moving. This is not something the district administration can move and set aside. This is clearly one-time capital improvements funds. This is typically when your debt rolls off as well. Your wraparound debt is utilized to help build in additional debt. So you're continually making the same amount of payments which you've always had. It's a measure in order to set yourself up to not continually tax the taxpayers. You're basically using the same level of funds which you've used before. But these funds were set up for the main purpose of future borrowing capacity. There was also a PSERS set up of $3 million. This was set since 2003, 2004, because about that time, the State Department came out and the PSERS board came out and said, while your rates were below 14 and 15, they're going to go above 30 and 35%. So the board at the time was very forward thinking, of course, and permitted the commitment of these PSERS amount. You'll also note that when we talk about a budget year to year, we use a portion of this amount. So how we do that is we compare year-to-year rate increases of PSERS, and we have a formula set up. Mr. Fordham works with this, a formula set up to pull a certain amount of funds from this account and bring that as a revenue to help offset just that little bit of an increase in the PSERS. Then, of course, our debt services, this is relatively new. This is 2 year of ACTI that we're building in. And so, if you'll recall, 2 years now in a row, we've set 1% aside for ACTI. That equates to be about approximately $320,000 to $40,000. So this, as we set those funds aside, we put them in as expenditure on the district funds budget. As year ends, those funds don't go spent because we're building in that period of time, but these funds are committed for the purpose of future borrowing for our commitments that we would need to pay for ACTI. Next slide. Next categorization is the assigned portion. So we have in the assigned portion, this is typically administration's purview to do such assignments, and I'll explain why these assignments occurred. So the 25-26 budgetary reserve of $1.6 million. So when we started establishing the budget last year, we had a shortfall in the budget of $1.6 million. So when we ended the year, it has been our history here at the district that, as I mentioned, established in 1718, that any use of fund balance is used and is assigned accordingly for the following year. It's very likely at some point we're not going to have any of this. We ended June 2025 with nearly $250,000 in over expenditure. While we budgeted that we were going to use $1.6 million, we did overexpend by $250,000. So this money still sits there at this particular point in time. So if everything were to fall through exactly where the current year lies for the 25-26 year, the anticipation is that $1.6 million will be used as we finalize this current year. Capital improvements. Apologize for the error, but this is a capital reserve assignment that was set up, and I'm sorry. This was, let me think here, my notes. I think this was set in 21-22. I apologize, it was 2021, 21-22, simply because this was additional expenditures unspent as a result of some of ESSER funds, so we knew that we would have a need for capital reserve, and so we've set these funds up for the purpose of capital reserve. Now, I'll hold this thought for a little bit later on, but our future medical cost, again, we had better performance 2 years ago to the point where instead of sending $1 million to the trust and sitting in reserve, we are retaining the $1 million here on our fund balance so we can gain the interest on the $1 million. So then when the rates do increase above the rates that we can typically handle in the annual budgeting process, we'll pull from this account. Our safety and security enhancements, 189,184. This is a result of a safety and security grant. So 2 years ago, we put into place our school police force, and we had planned budgeting X number of personnel in that budget. And accordingly, after the budget was approved and we proceeded on, we were notified that we were a recipient of a safety security grant, which we could use to help set up our police force, in which we did. So the general fund operations of the budget was unspent because we utilized the grant. So rather than having those funds go into unassigned, we assigned them for the purpose of use of safety and security. Now, this number will change at the end of this year because there are some plans with the Safety and Security Director that these funds will likely be reduced. Technology improvements was very similar in nature. So this is $700,000 as a result of ESSER. ESSER came along. We had, again, I'll go back to, we had over $8 million. Is that what it was, Tom? Do you remember? So we had ESSER 1, 2, 3, and we had some other grants afforded to us. So out of one of those ESSERs, and I apologize, I don't know the exact one, there was the opportunity to buy additional technology supports for the district. So we used grant funds to purchase technology while we had the funds sitting as an expenditure plan in the general fund operations. So again, we did not spend our general funds. We used ESSER funds, so we set those funds aside because we will know that we will have to do technology improvements year after year. The technology department has a plan in which they are continually updating the laptops by department, by grade, by building, and so forth. So those funds, while they currently remain there, will likely be used relatively soon. And then, of course, our future borrowing was similar to the capital improvement for FIP as well. Next slide. Now, the last portion of our fund balance is unassigned. And unassigned truly is what is available for general operations. But I will say with a caveat, these funds, once used and once depleted, are not available to help operations. Our policy limitations, our policy says that we are to keep our unassigned fund balance between 6 and 8%. So we ended the year June 30th at $4.7 million of unassigned funds. The fund balance for capital reserve, next slide. These are for capital improvements, Fund 32, $11 million. This is part of CIP, unspecified. And then the next slide, if you could, just quickly, this is the bond fund. This is capital improvements. This is from the bonds that we received in order to take care of the bond of 2020 and 22, which is the James Getty and the Lincoln project. In fact, we are still open and have payables to the Lincoln project as of June 30th. This $7 million will be brought down considerably simply because the Lincoln closeout project is underway. We also have the team room potential here, and also any portion that is available after the closeout period of sending money back to the government because of arbitrage, which is $1 million. So if there's any funds left, will be utilized toward the admin project. If you could do the former slide, please. So it's between the cap bond fund and the cap reserve fund. When I was asked, well, can we fund these projects? Between the two funds, yes, we can. So the funds are available, and they are set there to address accordingly. And that will foreclose our quick rundown of our fund balance. One thing I would like to say, as I was going to mention before, one of the common public concerns is when you see fund balances like these are large numbers at a specific point in time, people think that, hey, they're there for a purpose, why would we need to raise taxes? They're there, why don't you use them? So, and we have millions in fund balance. That's no lie. That's, physically seen, that the numbers are there. So why raise taxes? Well, the balance sheet will show total financial resources, but not all those resources are available for everyday school operations. So, and at times, the unassigned fund balance, which is the only really truly fund balance that we work with in general operations, can fluctuate up and down depending upon how the budgets proceed, how state money is received, how local money is received. So really, it is not that we're holding funds. We have funds set for a specific purpose that's not always available for general appropriations. I also like to, when I talk about fund balance and assets and liabilities, like what truly is fund balance? Fund balance is used to help pay our bills over the summer months. We have, before taxes start coming in, we are able to use those funds to help pay our bills until that occurs, and we're able to set up a new cash flow statement. But another way to understand just clearly how all this works in more of our own format, I look at it as sometimes as, assets for a school district, assets for my own family as my car and my house. I own them. Those are my assets. Assets for our district are many of those things that we just reviewed. While I don't have this, many households do. The liability is your mortgage. And/or bills that you need to pay, those are liabilities, short-term versus long-term. And, in terms of my own household, fund balance is considered net position, which is equity. That is my equity that I have available to me, that I am rated on how I can proceed if needed for a loan, for a borrowing, for school tuition for my college student. So it does matter, all in perspectiveness of having a healthy fund balance, because not only that, we are rated on by Standards & Poor and Moody's. We are rated on our fund balance. Those appropriations can change if in the event that when we do go to borrow and our fund balance is considerably dropped, our rating will drop, which then does not make us look very financially stable for investors. So there are multiple things that kind of go into having fund balances that while one can plan the best that you can, you never necessarily have a lot of fund balance to help carry you forward when some of these things are specific point in time and to be used throughout the year. So I know this was a lot of information. Fund balance and talking about the balance sheet is not an easy task to do. As I tried to reference this financial report, very detail-oriented. It's shared with multiple folks, not just our board. It's shared with the Pennsylvania Department of Education, with the Office of Budget at the state, our investors, Moody's, Standards & Poor. This information is shared also for the federal programs to make sure that our financial stability is intact and that we're meeting all compliance by the federal government for the monies that come. So it is relatively important, and I myself take it at heart to the work that our office does and our administration and our staff does, simply because it's all a working fluid system that we do not work in a single environment. We work with many people around us to get a job done. And while I would love to be more timely with this audited financial report, there's a lot of tasks that goes into it, planning each year, and sometimes some unforeseen circumstances that come up that don't necessarily get you to the exact time frame in a timely manner that you would like. But we do get there. And I'll open the floor right now for any questions.
Yeah, thanks, Belinda. I think particularly found the beginning of that, the context you provided for kind of, setting the scene between school district finances versus industry and corporate finances that people may be more familiar with. I think that's helpful to see what those differences are and see the breakdown that we have in our sheet. For the rest of the board, this is going to be time for questions, but I'm going to set a couple of parameters in place to kind of help with hearing people's questions and with time. We do have a meeting at 7, so I'm going to end this meeting at 6:55. So it gives people time to go grab water, go to the bathroom if you need to. And also I'm going to ask that if you do have more than one question, that you keep it to one question at a time in case others have questions to give people a chance. Okay? So the floor is open then for questions if there are some.
I'm waiting.
Well, I'll begin.
Thanks, Kathleen.
I really just have one question. Can we go back to the financial statements slide that lists the different types of statements? Right. So, school district versus industry corporate. The school district reports, are those mandated to us? PA school code tells us these are the forms we have to use versus the GAP forms?
Yes, these are required. We have additional filings with the Department of Education. Our budget, as well as our annual financial report, is required to file. So these are standard forms that are a part of that reporting process and a part of the financial report.
Cool. Is there another question? Dave, go ahead. You can ask a question. I know you do, but go ahead. You can start since people are still processing.
Okay. So under investments, we have 19.3 million, which you showed up there. So we have 19.3 million in investments under assets. What are they usually expended for? How do they come in and how do they go out? It's on page 18. Do they accumulate or do they deplete?
Where, I apologize, Mr. Seitz, what's 19 million? The first million?
Right there, yeah.
Yeah, sure, that's the cash, correct. This is the balance at the end of the year. They will deplete as we begin the new year.
Okay, because you also have cash above that. So what's the differential between the two?
It is the terminology that is used and
So that is just cash flow for operations?
both, yes.
Yeah, okay.
Cash and cash equivalents,
That's what I
which is
wanted to know.
more readily available. The investments are set-aside CDs
Okay,
and flex CDs, earning a relatively good rate.
are they on sweeps?
No, we do
Okay.
not do sweeps.
You don't do sweeps?
No.
Okay. So your capital project reserve fund of 7.9 million and your bond fund. So the 7.9, they are restricted for specific projects or they're unrestricted
Okay, so any
in the assets?
dollars associated with capital projects reserved and capital bonds are restricted in the sense that it can only be used
Right.
for capital projects and/or bond
But
funds.
where did it come from? The bond fund, I understand, that's borrowed money.
Correct.
But
Capital
but the
projects
reserve-
fund
The
is,
reserve came from where?
so it's a combination of years of putting money aside
Okay.
from year to year of help developing that capital projects plan.
And where does that flow down to the funds at the bottom?
To the funds at the bottom, so
What's the correlation between that reserve fund and as an asset, which then needs to flow to the fund in your bottom somewhere?
yeah, it's a fund balance, so it's
Where is it?
restricted. They're both restricted.
Yeah, but where is it down under the fund balances? What gobbles it up? Which account?
It's a restricted fund balance for capital improvements. So
Okay,
the asset
so
above,
it's in the 11 million? Okay,
correct.
so that actually flows downward to the 11 million? Okay, so that goes in the 11 million. So we have 11 million there. Then what's the differentiation between the capital improvements, which is under general fund, and the capital project reserve fund of 7.1 versus the 11 million?
once the dollars are appropriated into the capital projects reserve funds, they're not coming back for general appropriations. So if there's reserve funds in the general fund, which is assigned, they can be reassigned and/or moved to the capital projects
Okay,
front.
but we have 11 million under capital reserve, and we have 7.2 in capital improvements. And you said that one was for the blue sheet of our 5-year plan right here. So my question is, that is unrestricted, correct?
So the $7 million. that's-
7.185.
Yes.
That's
that-
unrestricted.
That is committed. That is not unrestricted. That
What-
was committed by the board. That was the stopgap
What-
for funding for future projects.
Okay, but what's it committed to?
It's committed by the board to use for
To-
funds when we borrow money,
Only when you borrow money or to pay for capital improvements?
when you borrow money.
But it's under the general fund section.
That's correct. The general fund committed those dollars. It was a board action.
But I thought you said that was covering these items, the blue line.
No, the capital projects reserve funds, the $11 million is covering the blue item
This side,
line.
these right here.
Correct, that's correct.
So there is money for these projects.
I want to be clear, like, there is money available. It's not money to fund exactly what they are.
No, but it's money available
Correct.
if
Well-
you voted to fund this.
With a caveat, I will say, these funds in the capital projects fund have to take care of the administration building, HVAC project, and the team room,
Okay.
once those awards are done, following this, this process after later this evening, the board meeting. So I think, if I recall correctly,
So am I to assume we have?
Hold on one second. Let's let her finish that question.
so if I recall correctly, the team room was what, I'm just going to use
It's 2 million.
approximately $2.5 million, and the admin building was estimated at, now, of course, we haven't gone to bid yet, so we don't know what those true numbers are, but we're using a budget of around $6 million. So between the capital projects bond fund is $7 million, paying off Lincoln Elementary, and the capital projects reserve fund of $11 million, between those two funds, that will take care of the admin building and the team room.
Okay, but what does the 7.2 take care of?
Again, that is committed capital improvements for future bond borrowing.
Okay, for future, okay.
Dave, I'm gonna pause the questions there for now to just make sure that other people get a chance if they have
Go ahead.
questions. Are there any other questions? Ryan, go ahead.
I'll step in because I think it's along the same vein in terms of just trying to understand the restricted funds in particular. And something that I need some clarification on is the concept of arbitrage for those funds. Because it's, and you can correct me if I'm getting this way off base, but it seems like there's a little bit of use it or lose it, not only with those funds, but also some penalty associated, which is this arbitrage. Is that accurate?
That's correct. So when you borrow funds, bond funds, you have a limitation of a 3-year waiting period to spend down the majority of the bond. That did not occur with our 2020 borrowing. We had a great interest rate. Like, we borrowed at 1.45%. And we've been earning interest on that, which is a great thing. Having arbitrage is not a negative thing. It's a positive thing, but we can't capitalize on that additional interest we've earned. After the close of 3-year period, we've got to send, if we haven't spent enough down of the bond money, we have to send that back to the IRS. It's in the rules and regulations of filing our debt instruments. So out of the capital projects bond fund, while at year end it's $7.6 million, we need to maintain at least $1 million to pay back arbitrage. We are quickly approaching arbitrage on 2022, and so moving forward with these projects are going to bring those balances down. So our goal is to reduce that arbitrage back to the IRS. We will not refinance or borrow, because we're never going to borrow at the same exact amount to take care of this. So it's not a bad thing. We would have capitalized on the interest if we would have handled paying things and doing projects within the 3-year period, of which we did not. Another thing that added to this was the ESSER. We were able to take a portion of the HVAC at James Getty. $2.3 million was available. We did not want to lose those ESSER dollars, so it was a timing issue that we had to move forward with that in terms of that. But arbitrage is something that we have to take care of. This is not something that we have an option. We did send a check back to the IRS already, but we need to maintain at least $1 million more to go back. Currently, in your board reports this evening, the $7 million is now down to $3.9 million, because we've paid out $3.7 million so far. in projects, in some of our projects. So of course, out of that 3.9 million as of, and again, this is as of February, $1 million will come off of that. So we have approximately 2.9 million available to address the stadium. And then, of course, the capital projects reserve fund of the 11 million will address the admin building.
So the 11 million, so is that legislative, restricted, or is that just basic board policy?
It's restricted in law that once you send funds over to the capital projects, and once you have funds in the bond fund, you're not able to bring them back to the general fund operations.
And then the surplus noted on note 1 and note 8, and note 71. So that surplus just went straight into the general fund from last year.
I'm sorry, repeat that question
No,
again.
Page 4, and page 71. It's the same number, it's 2.654 million. So that surplus,
Are you looking at the financial report, or,
I'm looking at this whole book.
okay, so page again?
So page 1, or, I'm sorry, page 4 and page 71. It noted a surplus over the funded balance for expenses and income was 2.6 million surplus. Net operating cash in my term. More received than went out last year, 2024 to 25.
Well, while Belinda is getting that pulled up from the book, I also want to just check in, since we're in kind of our final 5 minutes, if there are other board members that have questions.
Page 4 in the financial highlights, that is revenue that comes in.
Right, so it
Correct.
goes into the general fund up
Yeah,
top then?
so what happens
the end of the year?
what happens when you receive more revenue?
Right.
That'll automatically go into the unassigned fund balance. You're not appropriated to use it in that year.
Okay, that's what I wanted to
Yeah,
clarify.
no, I'm sorry, what was the other page?
No, that was it. It's the
Okay.
same number.
Okay.
It's noted 2 places in your audit.
Okay.
Okay.
Are there additional questions from the rest of the board?
I hope this information was helpful.
Yeah, there are many numbers.
When I reached out to the auditor just to make sure with our financials, she's like, I've never heard anybody do this before. But I'm like, that's okay, that's fine. I love to share information.
Yeah, I think overall it's very helpful to have, like I said, a lot of that background, and then also just some of the breakdown of the different categories that we use when we're budgeting for schools. We are not done with the budget process, so there will be many more opportunities to ask questions. And thank you to Belinda and Tom and the rest of the team for putting that together. We will take a brief recess in between meetings here, so we'll be back in about 9 minutes. Oh, I'm so sorry. I guess I do need to call for that. Any additional questions? Great, thank you. I'm looking for a motion to adjourn this meeting.
So moved.
Thank you. All right, good evening and welcome back to some of you. And welcome to our regular board meeting for this evening. The purpose of this meeting is to conduct the business of the Gettysburg Area School District. Board of Directors meetings and committee meetings are open to the public but are not public meetings. All school district residents who wish to make public comment should sign in prior to the start of the meeting and request to speak during citizens' participation. School district residents wishing to speak to the board shall do so only during the citizen participation section of the meeting. Public comment is welcome and all issues will be referred to the appropriate board committee or administrator. Comments will be summarized in the official board minutes, which will be available by contacting the business office. We did have a special meeting prior to this, which many of you were able to learn about the budget for. We will be hearing more about the budget as we keep going. Our board members are all present except for Dr. Moyer and Mr. Sigmund, who are excused this evening. Please, I didn't say this. Please take a moment to silence your cell phones and other electronic devices. And rise for the pledge. Yeah, get back into it. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. For notices and communications, do any board members have questions on our 3.1 to 3.4 reports and activity summary? Go ahead, Kathleen.
Well, I do. I just would like some clarification. Every time I look at the food service report, my heart breaks a little bit, seriously. So 76.9% of our students receive free and reduced lunch. I'm so glad that we can provide that. You mentioned to us at an earlier board meeting the number of our students who are unhoused. Can you remind me of that number? If not off the top of your head, maybe just email that to me.
Yeah, I'll get that to you. I don't have it off the top of my head, but I'll get it to you.
Okay, thanks. And we do offer services to unhoused students.
We do.
Can you remind us what that is?
I will. Can I? I'll get
absolutely.
I'll get all that information
100%,
for you.
100%.
I don't want to misrepresent anything, so I'll get all that information
All right,
for you.
thank you, Dr. Mansner.
Any additional questions on those items? Okay, we're going to move on to 3.5, which is the assessment budget review with Belinda. Back at it.
Yeah, sorry. All right, so quick budget update along with assessment discussion. So I believe at the previous board meeting, Mr. Seitz had mentioned about receiving assessment county data. So I wanted to present to the board the information of what we had and the differences between the two. I know he mentioned about a $3 million shortfall. This presentation will help represent that, as well as we'll talk a little bit about some budget. All right, so next slide, please. So our November certified numbers, and those are the exact same numbers that was provided by Mr. Crum to Mr. Seitz. We utilized those at our February 17th meeting. The November certified is the assessor's office by November 13th. The real estate value was listed there. Of course, we added assessment projections and additions and values. We also took a look at some of the parcels that were changing and coming off of our rolls. So therefore, projected July 1 of 26, we had a assessment value there. Taking it times our Gettysburg, our real estate mill rate of 11.489, it would have produced $40 million. However, we need to take into play two reducing factors to that number. One is the 1.9 million, which is the state gaming funds with a small $54 portion. And then the second is the 3% on collectibles. So while it's taking the assessment times the mill rate would produce one value, we need to take into account those two numbers, which is approximately $3 million difference from the number that was commented at the previous meeting to what we projected in our budget report for the February 17th meeting. So at February 17th meeting, we had $37.3 million of real estate dollars that we were accounting for the budget. Now, I will like to state that the state gaming funds, those numbers that are developed there are the 2025-26 gaming funds. So we know that we received $1.9 million for this year. Those numbers don't come out until about May 1st. So that's what kind of one of those last minute items that we addressed our budget to, simply because the certification is not provided till then. You'll see a change in $54. This is truly the year before. This is the unappropriated portion, and so this unappropriated portion rolls right into the next appropriation, simply because you're not able to take $54 appropriated over 7,368 parcels accordingly. So there's always, when you're doing the calculation from what the state certifies, there's always an undistributed portion that will carry over year to year. It's not that we're utilizing it or using it or forgetting it or not acknowledging it. We do carry that number forward, moving each year to appropriate those dollars back out. So this was at our February 17th meeting. We had $37.3 million of real estate taxes. Again, our tax collection rate is 97%. And so, of course, our uncollectible portion, but which we do budget for, is 3%. So the next slide, please. So our March 2nd budget meeting, we received an update from the county. And you'll note that the $38 million difference to the previous slide is $713,000. So, of course, there was a change in assessment. It was an updated number on the additions and values and estimates that we feel that will hit the rolls until like July 1 billing cycle. We also had an additional loss value that we know that's going to occur, some property change and appeals. So same scenario. So we go down to 41 million with the planned intentions of 1.9 million there or thereof reduction in gaming funds. So our budget meeting that we held on March 2nd showed real estate tax collections at $38 million. Next slide. February 17th, you saw the same slide, just as of bringing it forward, just to keep it at the forefront. So this is where we first started and where our gap was, showing 0%, $6.2 million. Since then, next slide. Last meeting, I discussed where some budget reductions occurred. And Ms. Harrison had asked where that was, what the list was. So, of course, I know why I spoke to it. This is exactly what $3.1 million reductions came into be in order to get the number down for the budget preparation. So the next slide, please. And I apologize. I should have repeated those. So we examined 2 elementary positions and the class size with intentions not to fill 2 classrooms. We had attritional retirement savings. So, of course, the attritional savings is typically when you estimate new replacements coming in, and it's definitely not at the current rate going out. So we capture those, and we reduce the budget accordingly based on that. Some tuition paid to outside services and special education in terms of extra autistic supports. When the budget was initially developed, we needed to do a deeper dive into those accounts. And so People Personnel Services and myself sat down and we reviewed some more of the tuition and special education, as well as Cabinet did. And we came up with some numbers that we felt is a more reasonable approach to budgeting, so therefore we reduced those funds. And then, of course, the cyber charter rate per student with a new PD 363 form. And, of course, we removed completely the budgetary reserve that was in the budget. $3.1 million was the expenditure change. Next slide, please. So, again, our goal is to get revenue expenditures to match, and so this equates what we shared on March 2nd. So with those budget reductions, if we were to still maintain, I'm going to say minimally 1%, because that's what I've mentioned before, simply because we need to fund the 3rd year of ACTI, we'd be looking for a measurement to find $1.5 million. If we go to the index, which I'm not saying that we absolutely have to, but it lessens the gap that we need to find of about $250,000. So we've shared this March 2nd, and so as we continue to move along the budget, the next slide, please. areas we need to address yet. As I mentioned before, I don't believe we're going to have any additional areas of expenditure reductions. So we're going to need to really determine what are we comfortable with for the capital reserve budget transfer. Do we want to use one-time funds as a revenue source to offset that $1 million, which, if you'll recall in the previous presentation, that capital reserve $1.2 million as assigned funds, that could be utilized as a revenue source to offset the budget. Or the capital reserve number could change. It could come down to 600,000. So we need to, in discussions of what the plan looks like, we need to determine what that transfer should look like, and then we work with the budget accordingly. Of course, our earned income number needs to be addressed, so we're anticipating to increase a little bit more revenue with earned income as we continue to do some more projections. And then, of course, the May County estimates and Homestead Farmstead numbers will come out. So again, we'll be looking at those changes to the duplicate numbers as certified as of May. And then, of course, discuss our options in a tax increase, so what that would look like. So this is kind of really where our roadmap is going. And then, of course, the next slide, just to wrap this quickly up. So here's our timeline of more work to be done. I do have, just to kind of briefly mention some options. We can move anywhere from, I have numbers, basically anywhere from a 2% up to a 4% tax increase and what that would look like. But again, I think the areas that we need to address need to be done in order to complete the process and to look at trying to minimize the tax increase, but we will need a tax increase. What that looks like, I have yet, determine that, but I think that'll produce more board action and more discussion at the next work session. Again, April's meetings, keep in mind, that is prior to the May 1 assessment information being released. So while we are going to be doing a budget work session, the likelihood of the budget changing is there, not drastically. But our goal is to have as much done prior to, because on April 20th, we will have the action proposed for final adoption and the advertisement must occur. So that'll be a proposed final adoption doesn't mean it's final. It's to satisfy the required advertisement rules underneath Act 1 and to make sure the budget is available for inspection for the 30-day time period. So we will continue following up with us getting the May 1 information. We will likely, hopefully, could possibly turn around to have that information available on the public hearing. If not, it would be the May 18th. So we have May 4th and May 18th to discuss items before that final vote, which was scheduled for June 1st. June 1st, we'll take action, hopefully, to take action on the final budget. It sets the tax increase and determines what the fund balance appropriations will be. So a little bit shorter than my previous presentation, but more information to come.
Thanks, Belinda. Are there questions for Belinda on that second presentation? Go ahead, Dave.
All right, Madam President, really, Dr. Metzler, can you just get some information from us from ACD? I know that we are committed to the 1% increase for their benefit. I'm curious to know what percent of their revenue comes from business and industry. And I would think they have that information. Can you please email that to us?
Yes, I can.
Thank you.
I'll reach out to Sean tomorrow.
Thanks.
Thanks, Kathleen. Dave, go ahead.
Belinda, go back to that gaming loss. Just define that a little more for me.
Sure.
Okay?
Yeah.
Yeah, what was on there?
Yeah, the 1.9 million?
Yeah.
Sure. So the state provides a certification on the gaming funds that has, through legislation, been processed as the amount of money that's dedicated to schools from gaming funds. So legislation was set up to say, here is X, Y, and Z as it relates to how the gaming system has done. Why legislation was ever set up for schools to be a recipient of gaming funds is beyond me, but it occurred and it is still here. And And so what happens, the state will certify those numbers. They send the money to us or notify us that here is the homestead farmstead number that you need to work with, and how many, we get the parcels from the assessment office of how many approved parcels there are underneath homestead farmstead. So we take the certification number from the state, that's revenue from the state, and then we in turn provide that back to the taxpayers on their tax bill based upon that the certification and who's approved as the homestead farmstead parcels. Does that help?
Any other questions? Ryan?
Just quickly, the timeline for when we see the homestead farmstead exclusions, and is that before June 1st in terms of having all the numbers?
So the certification will happen like May 1. The county's assessment office will provide us how many parcels there are. During the course of the approval of the budget, setting the mill rates, that reduction to those parcels happens at the July 1st billing of your tax bills. So when we know those numbers, we're going to estimate what a tax impact would be based upon those numbers. We've done that, I think, historically to say what that impact looks like to our taxpayers, where that break-even threshold is for parcels. Historically, it was like parcels $250,000 or less actually saw a benefit as that homestead farmstead number raised up. Of course, the higher the parcel, not necessarily quite as big as of a benefit, but there are parcels there that don't quite meet the thresholds and approved.
Any additional questions? Okay, thank you, Belinda. There's no citizens' participation this evening, so we're going to move on to routine approvals. I'm going to look for a motion to take 5.1 through 5.3. That's the agenda, financial report, and human resources recommendations. Thank you. A second.
I'll second.
Thank you. Any discussion or questions on 5.1 to 5.3? All right, hearing none, we will vote. Mike?
Yes.
Kathleen?
Yes.
Ryan?
Yes.
Dave?
Yes.
Justine?
Yes.
Donna?
Yes.
And I vote yes. Moving on to items for board action. The plan here is to take our policies that are not the new one. There's a new one on 6.9. To take those other ones together. So we discussed these all at the work session, the first meeting of the month, looking for a motion for 6.1 through 6.8 for policies. And 6.9. Okay, got it. You had, got it. Okay. Yep, thank you. Great. I read new and I changed my mind. Got it. Yes, this makes sense. We did do that one, yes. All right, 6.1 through 6.9 then.
So moved.
Thank you.
Second.
Thanks. Any questions or comments on the policies? Hearing none, we will vote on them. Kathleen?
Yes.
Ryan?
Yes.
Dave?
Yes.
Justine?
Yes.
Donna?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
And I vote yes. All right. I'm also, unless people have a need to separate them, I'm looking to take 6.10 to 6.13, all of our facilities projects as well. If someone has a need to separate, you can let me know now, or we can make a motion for 6.10 to 6.13. Hearing no need to separate, that would be the asphalt repair, seal, and stripping, high school gym equipment upgrades, the draft of the capital improvement program for the 5-year plan, and the rejection of the Warrior Stadium team room bids. So unless somebody has a need to separate, I'm looking for a motion, 6.10 to 6.13.
Just for clarification, will we have a chance to ask questions before or after?
Oh, yeah. Yep.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you, Justine. All right, questions or comments on those items? Go ahead, Ryan.
I saw Dave. We have just had a brief conversation on this end during the break about our draft capital improvement program for the 5-year plan. Just, is there an idea for when that goes from draft to a higher level of certainty?
Josh, you want to respond?
Yes, if that if you take action, it will move from draft to finalized, and then we won't move forward until we actually get the funding in place, which should happen when the budget's approved.
Thanks, Josh.
And just as a reminder too, then, that is the plan, and then those items all come up for a vote for those individual things as well. Yes, go ahead, Dave.
So I understand how this process works. This is going to be. So I'm trying to figure out how the process works now. So if we group in 6.12, are we essentially, if we approve 6.12, we're approving all the projects? Even if funding's put in place?
No, the board is going to individually approve each project. This is a future-looking scope of work, potentially for the district, helping to plan, but you're not approving the projects in here. You're approving the concept of this is the timeline of how we approach and address each project.
Because in the balance sheet discussion we had, there's money already appropriated for several of those projects, which has been explained.
Yep.
So, and I think it was just said that if we approve this concept of 6.12, then the projects would be funded once the budget's approved.
No.
The funding would
not
be,
what I heard.
the funding would be available to then use for those projects.
You still have to go through
The funding is
bidding.
not available until the budget is
But each project will
approved.
then be voted
Correct.
individually.
That is what I
Correct.
tried to say.
For
Yes.
approval or non-approval.
Correct.
Okay.
I think we're on the same vein with our questions here, and I guess what I don't quite see yet in this design bid build process from this initial approval is, when do we seek bond funding? Would that be after we approve with this vote here? We would then look to raise bond funding?
So on this capital improvement plan, the time that we seek bond funding are those items at the bottom of the plan, the future FIP. So typically anything above that, and it's factored into like future, like for 1 year, 2 year, 3 year, 4 year. Anything in yellow and or future years is typically what we fund per year, and we have funds available as well. But anything that is below that blue line, which is, it's the, yeah, I'm sorry, I'm trying to get it up here. Right now, it is, there was one thing underneath this, which moved up to year 4, I believe. But I will say a caveat, year 3. That's pending if we need to borrow or not. So while we move that up to year 3, it could very well be that we may need to borrow that money in that year. But anything that's listed below the blue line, such as athletic field house, athletic turf, stadium field lighting, those are items for discussion that may and may not require bond funding. For example, the athletic field house, even though it's estimated at $17 million, that would require bond funding. That's not something that we can produce with the capital plan. However, if the stadium field lighting is 206, and there's nothing else that's preventing us from the capital plan, we could probably take care of that without additional funding. So it just depends. But simply moving up the weight room doesn't necessarily mean that's going to be covered with capital reserve funds. We may need to borrow for then at that particular point in time. Okay?
So, on page 6, under the facilities improvement project funded through borrowing, what is the tech prep? Number 814.
That would be a similar project, like an HVAC renovation type project that we just completed at Getty Lincoln. We forecast out 17 to 20 years for major renovation like that. So that's just looking ahead.
What's tech prep, though?
Tech prep. Well, we didn't
It's
sell
the
building.
ACTI was functioning out of that building.
It's just the building.
It's the ACTI building?
Yes.
Yeah, it's the building. Yeah, not the
It's-
programs, just the building.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Any additional questions?
Yes.
Go ahead,
Yep,
Kathleen.
I have a couple questions, just to confirm that the draft plan in front of us has not changed since the March 2nd meeting.
It has. It has moved up the exercise weight room equipment.
Okay, thank you. And I just wanted to, I hear what we're doing. I hear that we will or we will not approve this draft plan, but that does not mean we are tonight approving the individual line items on there. They all come up for vote. And I'm hearing that and I understand that. But can you help me understand the logic behind that? Why wouldn't we tonight, as we approve the draft plan, assuming that we do, why wouldn't we also be approving those line items? And then when they come up for individual vote, wouldn't kind of the common sense approach be like, well, you did approve these when you approved the draft plan? So can you help me understand why we wait to approve things individually?
I don't know, Josh, if you
I
want
would-
to take it or me. Yeah, go ahead.
I would just say that was, I don't know if that's formalized in a policy or a guideline anywhere. That was the way it was when I came here 4.5 years ago. But I will say I would agree with you with your logic, because typically we look at the individual projects about 6 times before they're finally approved, and we the administration, have a notice to proceed, if you will, to actually get the work done. And there's one point of clarification. So on page 3 at the bottom, this is the second page of what we call the plan processes. Generally speaking, and that's how projects 24,500 and less will generally be completed without further board action. Typically, we don't have anything that small, but we do not typically put something of that value or under in front of the board again beyond this approval once the plan's approved and it's funded. Anything over that, we do bring it forth for info and then action. And yes, it's often deliberated multiple times at that point.
I was going to say, I imagine too, I don't know this for sure. It's good to hear that it's just kind of the way it was done, and that's the reason we're aware of. But I imagine too, like for the projects here that are high cost projects, right? That things throughout the process and budgeting for that. Well, okay, let's say something. I'm not wishing this on our buildings, but let's say something catastrophic happens with the building you're not expecting, right? That then you are able to reallocate those funds and say this project now takes priority 4 years later when you didn't know that maybe would happen. So I wonder if that's part of the reason for a draft plan. Either way, I do believe that having a plan that we're kind of on the same page with and getting updates and information on is a good one. I don't have an answer to your question either, Kathleen, but that's the one thing I can think of that would cause potentially an issue in our finances as a board and needs as a facilities kind of cohort if we had already committed those funds and voted it through. And then something else came up,
So,
since it is a 5-year plan. But yeah, any other questions on these items? Yeah, Dave, go ahead.
so differentiating between what I consider capital projects and general repairs, ongoing annual rollover repairs. Most of the things that are in the first 3 years, a lot of those are general repairs, which you averaged, I think, if you go back to the beginning, I mean, a lot of these things for this year, 26, 27, 660,000. That comes out of your operating budget, correct, Belinda? Those types of things?
That comes out of the capital reserve
Just
funds.
comes out of capital reserve.
Yes.
Then what does property services pay for, the money that's in the budget?
Josh, do you want to? respond to that?
Property services?
Yeah, like,
Normal maintenance and repairs.
well, to me, a magnetic door or lot, or parking lot sealing and striping is general maintenance.
Not necessarily. Sometimes these are repairs and requests that are done during the course of the budget, but it's not necessarily a part of the budget because it's anticipated to have the capital reserve funds pay for it. So, for example, we may not be doing, like, in the example of what Ms. Broadway mentioned, is some emergency comes up, some of these items will be deferred to the following year. An emergency is going to take precedence over this. So this is saying there's a placeholder in capital reserve to take care of this level of funding.
Well, it's considerably confusing.
Yeah, Dave, I understand where you're coming from. It's basically your definition of a capital improvement, and the projects we have listed here, I would agree that maybe not all of them fit within the, the quote-unquote true definition of capital improvement. I can see why you would look at it as, a maintenance type item. So with that said, regardless of what bucket we pull it out of,
Right.
It needs to be done, and I account for it in my budget.
Oh, well,
And-
most of these items need to be completed.
Right.
I mean, like the resurfacing of the track, I understand there's considerable issues with that track right now. And I see that's being pushed back to, what, 2 years from now?
Well, no, the indoor track.
No, the outdoor.
Oh, the outdoor. Well, I don't think there's considerable issues with it,
Okay.
in my
So-
opinion. That's why we've dropped it down the list.
Okay, so I mean, and Belinda, when we were going over the balance sheet, it would be, I mean, you have this bucket of money, which we said is $18 million between the capital and the reserve. So one was 11 million, one was 7 million. What are we allowed to spend that on? These items. Okay, so we have $18 million.
But again, we still have to take care of the admin building
Well,
and the team room project that, out of that $11 million.
the admin hasn't been approved yet.
We are proceeding with estimates.
Yeah, but it's not approved. That's why I asked. If we're approving this and the admin's in here right now, then I got to vote no.
So you are entitled to vote whatever way you would like.
No, but I'm saying, right now,
I understand what you're saying.
That is pulled in a bucket of things.
This is still a draft plan.
Well, we're
So-
going both ways here. It's like being
No,
bipolar.
this is a draft plan. These items in this plan are not being voted on this evening. This is the plan for the next 5 years of what we can be looking at, and it does and can change. So, I mean, I don't want to, I understand that there are confusion points to that process, but that is the process we have, and that is the process we've taken, including last meeting when we were talking about this draft. So I think for the interest of this meeting this evening and this vote, questions about items on this
No, it's not the items.
will
it's
be
the
entertained,
concept.
but
It's the
I
concept.
understand that there is a confusion and/or disagreement with the concept.
Because I'm hearing two different sides. I'm hearing.
So
that it's
if I can
all-
jump in here,
ahead.
again, on page 3, if you look at the very last sentence, it says, "For those projects above the bidding threshold, board action will be sought to approve bids for those projects per capital improvement program memo 11618." So anything above 24.5, we will bring it back in front of the board. And just a point of clarification relative to when this plan goes from draft to the adopted plan, if you guys act on it tonight, then you're approving the plan, not approving the funding, just the plan. Then it will be funded appropriately out of the budget approval. And then again, anything 24.5 and above will come back in front of the board for info and then action, which should solve Dave's concern and valid concern. I understand where you're coming from with it. But anything 24.5 and above will come back for approval, information and then approval.
But for clarification, is this one reason why we may end up in arbitrage? Because we approve a draft plan and then things go through getting estimates, there's time involved, it comes back to the board for a couple of added discussions, ultimately the board may say no, and now we potentially have reached that 3-year limit, or have we not borrowed any bond money until the board says yes?
We currently still have bond money, so we're not borrowing anymore in this particular point in time. I go back to the 2020 borrowing. We borrowed at such a great rate to do the high school. The bids came in so much lower, and it was a delay because of COVID. So, one, we came in so much lower than what we borrowed, and two, the delay pushed us in past the 3-year limit. Then comes along the 2022 bond to address James Getty and Lincoln. Again, we had a delay on product. We had to move forward with, the Omni choice. And we also had ESSER money. So that was another factor. So we are still working to close that out. So whatever monies are remaining unspent is a factor of arbitrage. Like I mentioned, arbitrage is not a bad thing. We're just earning extra money, but we need to set that extra money aside to pay back because we didn't spend down the bonds. Like bonds, there's a whole lengthy approval process, public hearing, financial representatives are here before the board. You're talking about amort schedules and all of that. When you borrow to make sure that you're borrowing enough, not only to do the project, but any other capital-like options or scenarios. Does that address your question?
It does, yes. So when we look at thank you, when we look at page 6, approving this draft plan, moving it into an active plan, is not the same as approving any new bond money that would be required for some of the items on page 6.
That's correct.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I'll also point out, just for the note that Josh read, that when looking at this 5-year plan, the only item on here that is under that threshold is the 28-29 paving of the parking lot.
Can I ask a question?
Yep, go ahead, Justine.
So looking at page 6 of the projects, because our next item for tonight is to reject the bids for the team room, should that not be on this draft because it's going back out to bid?
So the project has already been approved, so that one would not go on to this new project. These are unapproved projects. That project has been approved. It's the bidding process and the cost that came back that we need to go out for again.
Well, in the process which we're past the timeline for the approval of the bids, the permitting issue was an issue. And so as we move forward, we need to officially reject the bids and rebid the project. The bids may come in higher or may come in lower when we rebid it, but then we're rebidding it underneath a timeline that is more suitable to having the work done. None of the contractors necessarily agreed to continue their current level of pricing. So therefore, the best scenario and what was recommended by our solicitor, Dave Jones, is reject the bids and then rebid the project and let us see where it goes. So by rejecting the bids, we will notify the bidders that the bids have been rejected and that we will go back out to rebid. They will be more than welcome to rebid the project, and that will come back before the board. The board will have to reprove the bids, whatever those bids look like. The board may decide, hey, we don't want to do the project because it's cost this X, Y, and Z. Or the funding may be an issue now because we may be at a different position in the capital reserve.
Sure, so not a new project, but going back out for bid because of that gap in time.
Correct.
From theoretically starting the project to when it then couldn't be started. Does that answer your question, Justine? You can ask it again. Do you have a follow-up question? Go
So
ahead.
that money from the capital reserve fund, that like 11 million, right? You're talking about the 11 million.
The 7 million and the 11 million combined, yes.
Right, but the team room was coming from the reserve fund, not the
Correct.
bond fund, right? And because
Well,
it's,
let me clarify that. We're going to spend the bond money first and foremost, then we'll reserve, then we'll transition some of the money over to the capital reserve. So our goal is to spend the bond funds first and foremost, retaining that arbitrage to make to the IRS, and then the capital reserve will be utilized to stopgap the difference,
okay.
is what I'm fair to say.
And then my question, Alice, is, and maybe I'm just, I don't know, but it's being rejected. We're going to vote to reject it. So that money is coming back to the table, right? For us to then have to approve again.
So, yes, we will, if we vote to reject it tonight, that enables our team to go rebid, and then we would be voting on.
But because the project has been approved, you're accounting for that 2 points.
We have not technically approved the project yet to utilize those funds. We earmarked.
So why is it not on the improvement plan?
Because we've already gone through the process. This is future planning for the next 5 years and FIP. So the team room was already in the works. And so therefore, all we're doing is, the funds are still sitting there, still part of the 7 million and the 11 million, hasn't been moved, hasn't been touched. So just by rejecting those bids, those funds still stay there. And then when we go out to rebid it, the pricing then, of course, once the approval of those bids happen and the project begins, then we'll pay the contractors accordingly.
This is
Using
moving
this-
into the next school year. So despite it being 26, we're in the 25-26 school year.
I have
Ryan, go ahead.
another process question, I think, for Josh. And on page 5 of this, under the 28-29 totals, there's 2 lines for energy management in the administration building, one for replacing the computer room air conditioners. And this seems redundant with the scope of work for the admin building renovation project. Could you explain if it is or if it isn't, and how it fits into that?
It is. So anything, and I left them on here in case the admin building doesn't go and we need to do piecemeal replacements. If we do the full HVAC upgrade like we're planning with the administration building, this will change. So you'll notice that I call it shuffling the deck, but for year 2 through 5 on these plans, when this comes up again next year, the deck will be shuffled. We'll reprioritize and add and take away, and then we'll add then a 5th year to it. So really, for all intents and purposes, because funding will be for 26, 27, those are the jobs that are going to be, I'll use the term locked in, that you're then going to vote on again next year for execution. Anything beyond that wouldn't be on the table until that plan year comes up with the newly approved plan for that appropriate year, if that makes sense.
So we get to look into the future kind of every year.
Yes,
Great.
and then we have the other FIP jobs with the 10-year look ahead, and then items to be discussed, which could be part of shuffling the deck, right?
Great, thanks. Dave, go ahead.
That's 2 questions from me. Josh, what percentage, since you inherited this format, what percentage is ever completed out of these items, would you say?
Since I've been here, we've completed all of them, and we went back and completed some COVID items, projects that weren't completed. I want to say, and don't quote me on this, but I think 2 of the buildings that we're doing the paving, sealing and striping were COVID era projects that just didn't get done because nothing got done. And there's 1 or 2 other projects that we had to pick up, but yeah, we're current. We went back 5 years beyond when I got here in 21, so
And
close to 100%.
Would you format this differently?
If I were to have never seen this, I mean, the format might have been different a little bit, but the information conveyed would have been the same. Yeah. Yep.
Any other questions? A reminder, this is for 610 to 613, so questions on any of those items? Hearing none, okay, we will vote. This is for approving 610 to 613. Ryan?
Yes.
Dave?
Yes.
Justine?
Yes.
Donna?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
Kathleen?
Yes.
And I vote yes. Moving on to program reports, Dr. Metzner.
Yes, thank you. A couple of things to report on. First, last Friday, the high school hosted a blood drive, and I'm happy to report, thanks to the generosity of our students and staff, 48 units of blood were donated, some by me, which is enough to help up to 144 patients receive life-saving transfusions. So great job by the high school, the high school group that did that. On March 25th in the evening, we are holding a presentation called Keeping Kids Safe from Hidden Digital Dangers. FBI Special Agent Jeffrey Ford will be discussing threats facing our children and teens online. That presentation starts at 6:30. We're opening the doors at 5:30 with a resource fair to just offer and report on the resources we have available to our families and our students at the high school. It's at the high school, yep. We are working in collaboration with the Gettysburg Area Education Foundation for this presentation. They have been great. We are actually offering the book, The Anxious Generation, to the first 100 pre-registered families that will be attending this event. Those 100 books are being donated by the foundation, which was fantastic, very generous of them to do that. I'm happy to report, I looked about an hour ago, we have 99 pre-registered families already attending, which is fantastic. So yeah, the presentation was done for our staff during an in-service half-day last week, so the teachers got to see what the presentation is going to be about, and there's a lot of important information, so I'm happy they're able to put this on for the community. The only other thing that I have to report is the middle school spring musical. They are doing Moana Junior, which will be held at the middle school March 27th at 7 and then March 28th at 2. So please come out and support the middle school musical. I'm sure it will be as wonderful as the high school musical was. Thank you.
Dr. McFarland.
Evening, everyone. Year 2 induction program, first year doing this year. Typically our induction program through PDE and the district and the county has been a one-year program for us, I think forever, actually. So excited about that. Each month our year 2 teachers have met with administration colleagues and focused on a different domain of their teaching aspect. I get the privilege in March to meet with them about domain 4. Those meetings have started off. We're focused on their professional learning communities, what they need to do to maintain certification. And really, I take this opportunity as an evaluation of our work, of how we've done onboarding them here at GASD and how we can continue to support them as we move forward. Our spring testing window is just a month away. We have just trained our school assessment coordinators, and our next step are training staff and further preparing our students for that to start on April 20th. We have also begun our federal programs are being monitored from a programmatic, financial, and school level aspect, so that should be fun. And on a happier note, just 2 weeks ago, we wrapped up Read Across America Week. We had the pleasure, many administrators had the pleasure of going around and reading to numerous classrooms, groups, and buildings, including, I guess it would be called Best a Duet with Dr. Matster of Green Eggs and Ham. So, wonderful.
We had a very good time.
I was going to ask about your favorite book, so there you go. Must be Green Eggs and Ham. Belinda, go ahead.
So I'd like to report to the board that we will likely be doing a press release relatively soon. So there are safety concerns prompting an aging witness tree removal, that we are trying to preserve its legacy. So the report will indicate that Gettysburg Area School District will soon remove an aging witness tree located adjacent to the concession stand at the Warrior Stadium. With safety concerns and the tree's natural end-of-life removal necessary, the district is taking steps to preserve its legacy for future generations. The silver maple tree, believed to date back to the time of the Battle of Gettysburg, stood for generations near the district's athletic facilities. Over time, it is hollowed and deteriorated, weakening its structural integrity and increasing the risk of falling limbs or failure. Its location near the track and the field area event poses a safety risk to students and visitors. After consulting with several agricultural experts. Mr. Reynolds did, of course. An evaluation of the tree's structural condition, the district has determined that all options to preserve the tree as it stands have been exhausted. While the goal has been to keep this historic tree standing, it continues deterioration now presents a safety concern. Silver maples typically live 50 to 100 years in south central PA environment, with the distinction of the witness tree believed to date back to the Battle of Gettysburg. In 1863, the tree is estimated to be at least 163 years old and likely older. We want to deeply respect the deeply respect the historical significance of the tree, and the safety of our students and community must always come first. Decision was made carefully with input from experts. The removal is to take place in the near future. Careful effort will be made to retain the stump to be used for educational purposes, providing it does not meet present continued safety hazards. The district is working with the Gettysburg Area High School Agricultural Department to preserve the tree's legacy and cultivate saplings through tree grafting, and will be planted on district properties. In addition, the stump will remain as approximately 2 feet in height, giving students the opportunity to study the tree's age and structure, as well as learn about the significance through the marker. Through these efforts, the district hopes to preserve the legacy of the tree and in connection with community history, while maintaining a safe environment for students and visitors. So we wanted to update the board before this press release does go out, keeping you informed.
Thank you. Sad to hear about the tree, but sounds like the best possible outcome for being able to continue to learn from it. Wonderful. That brings us to our calendar of events. Or dates of meetings, I guess is what that is. Our next meeting will be Tuesday, April 7th. It is the first meeting of the month, so that will be our study session here in the boardroom at 7. Going to get a motion to adjourn. Thank you. Have a good night.